A young boy kneels in silence. His hands are shaking, not because he's cold, not because he is afraid of the dark, because today he will hold a real sword for the first time. He is only a child, but from this moment forward, his life no longer belongs to him. It belongs to the samurai. When most people hear the word samurai, they imagine honor, power, discipline, legendary warriors dressed in beautiful armor, heroes from movies, heroes from stories, heroes from history. But the real life of a samurai was far less romantic and far more brutal. Behind every famous sword was a lifetime of sacrifice. Behind every victory, years of pain. And behind every legend, a human being living under enormous pressure. Because being a samurai wasn't something you did, it was something you became. And once you became one, there was no easy way out. For countries, samurai stood near the top of Japanese society. They carried weapons, they served powerful lords, they fought wars, they protected territories, and sometimes they decided the fate of entire regions. But privilege came at a cost, a very heavy cost from childhood. The samurai was expected to master his emotions, control his fears, obey without hesitation, and prepare for death. Not someday, not when he became old, not in the distant future, every day. Because the samurai lived with one terrifying truth. At any moment, everything could end. But before a samurai could master his sword, he first had to master himself. In feudal Japan, a warrior's greatest enemy wasn't always standing across a battlefield. Sometimes it was fear, anger, pride, or hesitation. A samurai was expected to remain calm, no matter what happened, no matter who died, no matter how dangerous the situation became. Imagine standing on a battlefield, hundreds of warriors around you, arrows flying through the air, horses charging, steel crashing against steel, and yet you were expected to stay completely composed, because losing control of your emotions could get you killed. Over time, this way of thinking became something bigger, something known as Bushido, the way of the warrior. Bushido wasn't a single book, it wasn't a single law, it was a collection of ideals, principles that shaped how samurai lived: loyalty, honor, discipline, respect, courage, self-control. These values follow the samurai everywhere, on the battlefield, at home, even when nobody was watching. And perhaps the most important value of all was honor. Today, making a mistake can be embarrassing. You lose a game, you fail an exam, you make a bad decision. Life moves on. For a samurai, things were different, very different. Losing your honor could destroy your reputation, your family's reputation, sometimes even your future. That pressure never disappeared. It followed them every day of their lives. And if a samurai failed his lord, betrayed his duty, or brought shame upon himself, there was often only one way to restore honor: a ritual known as Seppuku, sometimes called harakiri. It remains one of the most shocking traditions in human history. Rather than live with disgrace, the samurai might choose death voluntarily, not because death was easy, not because they wanted to die, but because honor was considered more important than life itself. To modern people, that idea can seem impossible to understand, but for centuries, many samurai truly believed it, and that belief changed everything. The way they trained, the way they fought, the way they spoke, the way they lived. because every decision carried weight, every action had consequences, and every day could be their last. But despite all this discipline, despite all this honor, despite all this sacrifice, most samurai weren't fighting glorious battles every day. In fact, the reality of their daily lives might surprise you. Most people imagine samurai spending every day on a battlefield, sword in hand, facing enemies, fighting for survival. But surprisingly, that wasn't the reality for many of them. During long periods of peace, many samurai rarely fought at all. Instead, they became administrators, officials, teachers, writers, advisors. Some spent their days managing land, others collected taxes, some studied literature, philosophy, and strategy. A samurai was expected to be more than a warrior. He was expected to be educated. Many practiced calligraphy, many wrote poetry, many studied history. Some became highly respected scholars, because true mastery wasn't only about defeating an enemy, it was about mastering yourself. And yet, no matter how peaceful life became, the sword never disappeared. The sword was more than a weapon, it was a symbol of status, a symbol of identity, a symbol of everything a samurai was supposed to represent. Some samurai even believed that the sword contained part of their soul. To lose it was unthinkable. For centuries, this warrior class shaped Japan. Their values influenced politics. Their discipline influenced society. Their stories became legends. But no era lasts forever. As technology changed, the world changed with it. New weapons appeared. Firearms became more common. Armies became larger. Battles became different. A sword was still deadly, but it could no longer dominate the battlefield the way it once had. Then came even bigger changes: modernization, industrialization, a new Japan. The old world began to disappear. The government introduced major reforms. The power of the samurai weakened. Their special privileges vanished. Their role in society changed forever. For many samurai, it felt like watching their entire way of life collapse. The class that had ruled for centuries was slowly fading into history, and eventually, the age of the samurai came to an end. But their story didn't end, because even today, the image of the samurai survives in movies, in books, in games, in museums, in history. People still admire their discipline, their dedication, their courage, their commitment to a set of principles larger than themselves. But behind every legend was a human being, a child forced into training, a warrior carrying impossible expectations, a person living under constant pressure, a life shaped by duty, a life shaped by sacrifice. And that's what makes the samurai so fascinating. Not because they were perfect and not because they were invincible, but because they devoted their entire lives to an ideal so powerful that many were willing to die for it. When most people hear the word samurai, they think of swords, battles, armor, war. But the real story is much deeper than that. The real story is about discipline, responsibility, honor, and the price people are willing to pay for the values they believe in. The age of the samurai ended long ago, yet their influence never truly disappeared. And perhaps that's why hundreds of years later, the world still remembers them.